There's such a digital divide from so many of our teens compared to their parents. I use myself as a perfect example of that. My knowledge of the different social media platforms is very different from my own children.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. This is our District Talk segment where we interview district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media. And we also ask them questions that we get from parents all over the country in our program. Now, let's get back to the interview.
Hello, I'm Dale Hurl. I'm the superintendent for the Independence, Missouri School District. We are a first-tier suburb of Kansas City. At K-12, we have about 14,000 students in 30 schools.
Superintendent, I'm so excited to get to know you on this podcast, to get your insights. You know, for all of our audience here today, you might be a parent, you might be a guardian, or you might be a superintendent, or some of the amazing people that we love in between. That means teacher, principal, whoever you are. We're honored to have you here today. While we talk about keeping students safe using these digital tools that we call cell phones, so they can someday shine online to get the dream job, career, internship, and everything else. And that's really our mission here is safety plus shine online. And it doesn't mean we're going to turn off all the tech. It means we're going to build guardrails and work with our kids and get closer to them. And that's our dream on this pod. Superintendent, I'm excited to have you here. I want to ask you real quick the first question. Now, after a couple hundred of these wonderful superintendent conversations, and shout out to all the superintendents in 40 plus states that have worked with us on this podcast to really change the direction of how we dialogue about this, we've heard a consistent trend. Students, we're hearing, are growing up in a digital world filled with powerful tech, AI, and social media, but they lack the maturity and the guidance to use it safely. The result is more student absences, lower focus, rising cyberbullying, declining self-esteem, and in some cases, AI misuse in the classroom. But parents are trying, on the other hand, to raise good kids in a world they didn't grow up in. A world where we're hearing technology is moving way faster in some cases than safety policies can. Teens know how to hide apps and online behavior, and safety lessons usually come after a crisis. Superintendent, please set me straight. Tell me what I missed. And are there any other trends on this topic that you've seen so we can alert other school districts before they see them?
I honestly don't think you've missed anything. And I think everything you said is very real and is very much the situation that parents, I'm a parent myself, I have 4 kids, but then also school districts are dealing with. And I think for us in the independent school district, we saw some of these situations, the concerns that are occurring a number of years ago. And we were one of the first school districts in Missouri that this was back in 2020 that we started not allowing cell phones to be used during the school day. And we do allow them at lunchtime. And I think that is the trend that you're starting to see in school districts across the country, moving towards that setting. And even we're seeing now state legislatures going as far as banning cell phones within the school day setting.
Yeah, and my question for you is, and yeah, we're seeing a lot of that. And in many cases, we're hearing that the students the first week hate everybody, right? Which is normal. And for all of our parents listening, if you do that tough parenting where you take something away, we are cheering for you. They may dislike you, but in the end, we've heard some really good things. Superintendent, what have you heard from your principals and teachers about how students are behaving differently, not only in the classroom, but also in the hallway, and what's happening at lunch with them talking more to each other? Are you hearing any trends there?
We have, and we've heard it consistently for the last 5 years since we've implemented this. First of all, what we heard in the classroom setting, kids are much more engaged. Teachers aren't having to vie for the attention of the kids, and instruction has gotten better. But then I think it goes beyond that. We were seeing where kids were not socializing with one another. It was far too easy just to look at your cell phone, not engage with your peers. So we are seeing more of that. And we do still allow cell phone usage during lunchtime. And that actually helps keep the noise down because the kids are so excited to be able to have a few minutes on their phone. But outside of that, once the bell rings, we're not allowing the cell phones to be used in the school setting other than lunchtime.
And I bet you've probably done a few classroom visits or gotten feedback from the teachers. What's that view of the kiddos? Like, how have they get the raw student feedback? Are they saying, thank you, I now like it better?
That's a mixed bag, to be honest.
Yeah.
What we normally see when kids come to us from another school district where cell phone usage has been allowed, we get a lot of pushback. They really dislike it a lot. They're used to being able to have their devices.
Yeah.
As they get more in tune or used to what our expectations are, certainly from the teachers, they really like not having the cell phones out. We do hear from kids, sometime begrudgingly, where they say that they do understand that this is really what's best for their learning. So while they may not like it on the surface, they do know it's what's best for their learning.
Yeah, that's really mature. I love that. And for all the parents and the superintendents who are listening and everybody in between, it's going to be hard taking these phones away for a little while. But as you can see, districts of about the superintendent size of a district and 14,000 and above students, it is possible to do this both in the classrooms, and we're hearing from districts nationwide. You're supporting your teachers. If you do this, then the teacher can either have them take it out of the locker or and use it in the classroom, but we're supporting teachers. Do you hear good feedback from teachers going, boy, you supported me by setting a district-wide, and then I can decide how it works in the classroom?
Absolutely. And even beyond that, what's interesting about this is what led us to this before other school districts is I was at a Chamber of Commerce meeting, and one of our largest employers within our community, I asked him, what can we do to help prepare the very best employee for you? And he told me, he said, on our work floor, they cannot have any cell phones. They actually make ammunitions for the US government. Yeah, in the New York Police Department. And he says, we can teach them all the skills. If you can make sure that they can read and write proficiently,
Yeah.
what I need is for them to be able to adapt to a situation or a culture in which they cannot have their cell phones. Because too often we will hire someone to work for us and they can't go 2 days without looking at their cell phone, and they just quit because it was so addictive in his terms that they would rather not have a job than go without a cell phone on the work floor.
So fascinating and so interesting. Wow. Okay. So for all of our viewers and listeners right now, you know that we protect a couple million people a year nationwide, and a lot of parents give us questions. Here's one of the questions we get from parents a lot. Hey, Josh, what advice would you give a student to help them recognize some of the red flags of a dangerous stranger? Big part of what we do is keeping kids safe first before they can shine online and get that employable job. Well, let's hear from a real teen about how she might help a friend recognize these red flags.
If I had a friend talking online to a stranger, I think that I would feel a little bit uncomfortable with the whole situation. I would advise against it because so many indirect issues can come from that, and it could cause something to be worse than if they had just unadded them in the first place. Some red flags that I would have to advise them to cut it off with this person or to stop engaging would be if the person starts to get very involved in their personal life and they seem to be very intrigued in what's going on with them and wanting to know all the little details about what they do and who they are, and just very personal details and things that you wouldn't normally share with a stranger in real life. If they're very persistent and constantly wanting to talk to my friend or constantly trying to be involved in their life or wanting to speak to them, I feel like that's kind of a red flag. Another thing would be if they ask them to ever meet them anywhere in person right from the start. If they feel a sense of being uncomfortable, or their intuition is just saying it's wrong, or if my intuition is saying something feels wrong with this, then I think that's a major red flag.
All right, parents, remember, if your school district is a partner, rather than us having an expert fly to your city for one night and maybe you can't make it, we now do 50 plus weekly events, 50 a year, and that's just about weekly, where we have lots of weekly live parent events and replays. And there's real teens in the program, as you can see in the middle of the screen. And there's a premium parent newsletter. Parents, the reason why you want to come to these is you can bring your teens to this. And we have lots of great talks about TikTok safety, Snapchat, Instagram. There's giveaways. So each week we have typically we're giving away a Kindle or a Bluetooth speaker or a 3D printer. We're promoting good screen time, good technology in the house that brings the family together, and it's fun. And we have heard from thousands of parents, hey, I brought my teenager and they kind of liked it. They kind of had fun, and it helped our relationship because I didn't have to be the bearer of bad news. So parents, we hope you'll do that. Here's what happened in New York. We love every state that we're in, dozens of states, but here's an example of how we're on the news about 34 times, parents. This is why you need to come out to these events. You are the one that needs to decide whether it's too much screen time or just right.
But parents and teachers know when it comes to teenagers and social media, that's easier said than done. So, in an effort to protect students from the dangers of being chronically online, schools are doing something you might not expect, asking parents to get online too.
It makes an awareness to parents and students. It also gives them an understanding of some of the warning signs.
That's just one reason why Deron Wilson, an executive director of school engagement, says his district uses the app Smart Social. It's an online app designed to educate parents and students on how to avoid strangers and dangerous situations online.
Kind of like, I want to say, a trap. When you get involved in the cyberbullying, like you might start friending somebody on an app, or somebody might say, hey, they might send me your picture.
Smart Social founder Josh Oakes says while there are a lot of things that can and should scare us online, the increased number of parents he is able to reach underscores the importance of growing social gathering spaces online.
Back in the day, I used to be one of the top social media safety speakers nationwide, but I was flying around to certain school districts, and they're the best of intentions, but only 20 or 30 parents would show up. We get 10 times the amount of parents to show up, and they want to learn from the convenience of their home or office how to keep their kids safe on social media. They want to ask live questions. They want to learn how to have dialogue starters with their kids that actually get their kids excited about talking with their parents and strengthening that relationship.
Darcy Wertique, Spectrum News.
Parents, remember, every single month there's a different flavor of the events. And in addition, when you come out, if your district is a partner, even over the summer, we've got our summer streaming series, Reducing Arguments with a Family Media Plan, Avoiding Strangers, More Reducing Arguments, and lots of different stuff. We always have 6 on the front of the site. And if you have family members that speak a different language, no one's left behind. Tons of replays in 12 languages. We have the whole year planned out. Come on out, win a prize, enter for a chance to win. And we'd love to have you and help you with your relationship with your kids and screen time. Okay, Superintendent, we're back to you. In addition, these 200 plus episodes with your peers in 40 states, what a fun conversation this has been over the last few years. We've heard this from communities as well. And maybe your community's perfect in your city. Maybe you have little angels running around as children, and that's great. And if so, we need to study your community. But we're hearing that many parents feel overwhelmed trying to keep up with fast-paced and fast-moving online trends and digital safety risks. We're hearing that students are finding ways to increase their screen time and bend the rules, especially when the expectations at school differ significantly from those at home. Superintendent, what trends or pain points are you seeing when it comes to parent engagement during the school year? And where do you feel families are struggling the most to stay informed or connected?
First of all, we're definitely not perfect here in Independence. We're having the exact same issues everyone else has. And I think you have to look at, first of all, there's such a digital divide from so many of our teens compared to their parents. I use myself as a perfect example of that. My knowledge of the different social media platforms is very different from my own children. But then you look as a school district, us trying to communicate not only the kids, but then the wide age range of our parents.
Yeah.
And so, we do a lot of the traditional communication through email and our Facebook, but then, we're starting to branch out and use some commercial platforms like Parent Square and text messaging. I think with school districts, the more platforms you can get on, the better, just so you can reach a wide range of audience, because parents differ so widely on what they're comfortable with.
I'm hearing good things about Parent Square. We don't work with them. We don't get paid to promote them, but I'm hearing that the text through the Parent Square or text message anywhere, text messages get like a 98% open rate in a 1-day period, whereas emails get like a 12 to 15% open rate. Are you hearing that text messages are good for parent engagement?
Absolutely. And that's probably the biggest game changer for us, because this was our first year using Parent Square as a platform. And it was because of the text messaging as part of the app. Because you're right, parents would not open an email, but they will quickly look at their phone for a text message.
Yeah, so true. And it's a quick, short message to get them to click on something or come out tonight to the football game or support the parent engagement night, whatever that is. Yeah, that's great. What advice would you have for other districts to get maybe more of that parent turnout? Are there any ideas or suggestions that you might have, Superintendent?
I think getting to reach the parents on as many platforms as possible, certainly text messaging has been a game changer for us.
Yeah.
And just the constant flow of information, the more times they see it, and we even have a strategy. If there's something that we want parents to come to, we're going to send it a week ahead of time, and then 3 days prior to the event, and then the day of the event.
I love that. That's a really good marketing drip campaign for all of the directors of communications who are listening to this going, oh, yeah, wonderful drip campaign. Very simple little checklist of like, what are we going to send the first time, the second time, the third time? ChatGPT could probably write those texts for us, right? Like, hey, 1, 2, and 3. I mean, just a wonderful thing to do. You know, I want to do this here just real quick, Superintendent. For all of our parent listeners here, we started to add on something wonderful. And I want to remind all the parents listening that, you know, everybody tends to agree with us on this eventually. And there is no real safety app out there that's going to protect your kids' parents. It's not going to be, oh, I'm protected by Microsoft or Google. Or the only safety app, if you will, is a rich dialogue that you have with your kids. And that rich dialogue that you have is going to be the thing that really, really helps your kids the most. And so what I want to do here just real quick is open up a couple dialogue starters that we have from one of our recent events. And I want to share with all of our listeners today. So you have like a cheat sheet, if you will, from some of our live events. I'm going to go ahead and share this here real quick with everyone and see what questions everybody might have. And then Superintendent, I'd love your feedback on this. So the first thing that I want to share with everyone is, here's the first dialogue starter that parents could screenshot is, you could consider asking your kids, what do you enjoy most about the show, app, video game that you're watching? And just opening them up. Next, how do you feel after you've been in front of a screen for a long time? More energized or more tired? Why do you think that is? Rather than preaching to your kids to put it down, diving into them, how do you feel? Next, if we set a goal this week for better screen time balance, like more outdoor time, family time, better sleep, what could we try together? Those ideas coming from your kiddo might be like, whoa, I didn't even think about that. And it's something they want to do. Would it be helpful to set a timer when it's time to turn off screens so I don't have to nag you? Or coming up with ideas they can have. In addition, hey, when you're on the phone a lot, do you ever feel like you miss out on other things you enjoy? Really tapping in to make your kids more self-aware so that when they're in college, they can manage themselves, because it doesn't switch. They don't get super mature at 18 and a half or 19, right? When they go away, right? We want them to figure these out early. And when do you usually chat, or who do you usually chat with online? Or you could ask, who are your friends chatting with online? Sometimes it's easier for kids to talk about their friends. Are they people you know in real life? That opens up a really big, good bag of worms that you can go, interesting. And your kids may go, I don't want to talk about this, Mom. Remember, you get 5 extra points just for trying. What's the hardest part about balancing screens, schools, and friends? You might unearth that maybe a kid is being bullied, or maybe your kid feels like, wow, somebody leaves me on red all the time and I feel bullied, whatever that is. And then last, is there anything about being on social media or video games that ever makes you feel uncomfortable or stressed? Remember, parents, these are just some of the great things. Not only will you enter for a chance to win an iPad, a Bluetooth speaker, a 3D printer, but also you're going to get these really great ways to open up that dialogue with your kids. Superintendent, is there one that I missed? Is there one that you like to use with your 4 kids?
I think you hit all the points really well. What I really like about your questions is that all of them are open-ended.
Mm-hmm.
And my kids are probably like every other teenager. If you ask a yes/no question, you're going to get a yes/no answer. Yep. But whenever you ask the question in such a way where they have to expand upon what happened that day, tell me what was good about your day, I think that's going to open up the dialogue so much better.
Thanks so much. I agree. And kudos to the smartsocial.com team for putting those together. Parents, those are from some of our live events. We hope you'll join us. Hey, Superintendent, on many levels, this was a blast. You and I have just a really cool conversation we had before. I'm so thankful that we got to connect. Thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it very much. And I really enjoyed our pre-show conversation. It was very interesting.
Yeah, really small world. To all of our parents out there, we absolutely adore you. And we want to talk about no shaming. How do we keep the kiddos safe? And then how do we keep them successful in the walls of your home and in the walls of the school? And what that means is, how do we maximize learning? We want them to know how to do arithmetic backwards and forwards in their head on the back of a napkin so they can negotiate things. We want them to know how to read and write and communicate really well before they ask ChatGPT for stuff. We want them to know how to build friendships and model good behavior at work and at school and at home and so on, so that we can launch them someday. And they're going to learn tech no matter what. We do want you parents to have that dialogue with them over their shoulder. But then the last thing we want you to do is help them shine online and brand themselves. Smart Social's here to do that. We literally own the Shine Online trademark. That's what we do. And parents, one last thing that I want you to look into. No matter what you're posting, make sure it's light, bright, and polite, because our kids are watching what we're doing online. I'm so grateful for all of our listeners all over the world. I'm Josh Oakes, the host of the smartsocial.com podcast. We'll see all of you on the next episode. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks for listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. Smart Social helps parents understand technology and social media to keep their kids safe and successful. Be sure to join one of our weekly online live events to become the smartest parent on the block so you can keep your kids safe and protect their future. Also, don't miss our 450 plus online resources and replays you can watch on demand in multiple languages. Are you a school district wanting to unlock these resources for your parents? Reach out to us so we can protect your whole community each week. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you on the next episode.